live. Alright. Alright, so everybody on the stream, hello, welcome. The stream is now live. I probably should have hit go live about 5 minutes ago. But we should probably go over the first story, given it was just me and Piggis here. So the first story today is Google encrypting. Google now by default encrypting RCS conversations by default. So now if you do an RCS conversation, if you do a chat using RCS, you now will have it end-to-end encrypted by default with Google Messages in this new update. So Google first rolled out RCS encryption in late 2020, so they've now actually decided to make it the default instead of being opt-in. So previously, yeah, you could choose whether you had encryption or whether you didn't, but now it's just the default option, so that's cool. So yeah, and also they're now encrypting RCS group chats, so that's another cool thing to do with RCS encryption. So yeah, so it's always good to see more chat apps enabling encryption by default, so people's chats are secure, and you know it means that Google can't read, or the telecom provider can't read the messages. So that's cool. But yeah, any thoughts? I'm just adjusting my mic arm here. Hopefully it's not making horrible noise. So it's meant to be a kind of alternative to SMS. So I think it uses it still uses the telecom providers, but instead of I think instead of being like standard SMS, you can with RCS. It basically allows you to send longer form texts, and it allows for like the encryption of texts. I think it launched back a few years ago. I think it was like 2017. And yeah, it's basically, so if you look at it on Wikipedia, it says RCS is a communication protocol between mobile telephone carriers and between phone and carrier, aiming to replace SMS with a text message system that is richer and provides phone book polling and can transmit in cool multimedia. So yeah, so it's effectively an alternative to SMS. So yeah, so it's cool that they're now encrypting RCS messages on Google Messages. Definitely because the main app that people use to message using RCS is Google Messages. Now that they're encrypting it, that's a serious kind of privacy improvement compared to standard SMS, where you know your telecom provider could read it, the messages, and you know intermediaries could read it, but with this, that prevents that from happening. So all good. Which EU laws are you talking about specifically? What's it called again? The data, not data control. It's the, I forget what it's called. Yeah. Let me look. Yeah, it's some new piece of legislation within the EU that's meant to. yeah, that's what's it called? Yeah. Anyway, I don't think it matters that much. Isn't it called chat control? Is that it? Anyway, yep. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know how this would line up when it comes to chat control and all that. But anyway, Google seemed to be going ahead with this, and you know, I'm pretty sure Google would not roll this out if they knew that it was going to annoy lawmakers. And of course, in certain regions, I'm sure this won't. I'm pretty sure in certain regions they might not roll this out. Like, do you think in like, for example, for example in China, because the government like to keep tabs on their citizens, do you think they would roll out end-to-end encryption there? I mean, I don't know. It's not mentioned here. Then again, I don't think many people using Google Messages within China, and it's probably actually blocked. So maybe they don't have to worry about it. So yeah. But yeah, so now one article that I could have put in privacy and security, or I could have put in the Linux section, but I've decided to put it in privacy and security because I feel like it's more in that realm. The Mozilla VPN client security on Linux is apparently got some flaws, and apparently there's no patch in sight. So apparently SUSE Linux, the SUSE Linux developers discovered a flaw when it comes to the Mozilla VPN, and Mozilla didn't respond to them for 90 days. And yeah, I haven't actually read fully what this exploit does. But yeah, it looks pretty serious from this because yeah, it says the SUSE security team reviewed the application, discovering that the program contains a privileged dbus service running as root and a polkit policy. So I don't know what a polk. Do you know what a polkit policy is, Piggy? Oh, okay. But yeah, so so uh, the SUSE security experts say that the vulnerability could be used by local malicious actors to configure arbitrary VPN setups using the Mozilla VPN service. So anyway, so there's clearly this exploit when it comes to Mozilla VPN, and Mozilla didn't respond to it for 90 days, and they still haven't actually fixed the problem. So that's not particularly good for Mozilla's part. And yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd work with like OpenVPN or like yeah. Yeah, it'd work with WireGuard as well. I mean, Mozilla VPN is basically just Mozilla selling on Mulvad. So yeah, it'll work like Mulvad. I'm pretty sure it will have WireGuard and OpenVPN. Yeah. Well, I guess if you've never heard of Mulvad, Mozilla have a kind of a bigger reach. You know, people use their web browser, Firefox. In fact, I've even got it open right now on stream. And yeah, and people might not have heard of Mulvad, so I guess they could argue that they're kind of like an intermediary and without them, they would these people would these users wouldn't have ever used Mulvan. So yeah. And also, I guess if you're a fan of Mozilla, it's good. If you wanted to, get a VPN, support Mozilla as well as getting some Mulvad stuff. I guess you could also argue that. But anyway, moving on to the desktop news. So a Windows story, kind of a Windows story, kind of an Apple story at the same time. Windows XP can partially run on the Vision Pro hardware in emulation. So UTM can now run on the Vision Pro in a kind of simulator. So they still need to input. They still need to implement input devices, but you can actually launch Windows XP and just look at it for a bit, I guess, in the Vision Pro headset. So that's cool. So Windows XP is quite old at this point. I don't really know why you'd want to run Windows XP inside of a headset that costs you thousands of dollars or pounds or whatever. But sure, I guess you could. And right now, I guess it's just a cool developer thing because, I don't think there's any practical use case for this. But it is cool to see the Vision Pro emulating an x86 operating system. So that's cool. And of course, XP is very iconic, so some people might want to run it just to, do whatever they want in Windows XP, I guess, and maybe have a bit of nostalgia. So, yeah. Yeah, can you see any practical use case for this, Piggus? Yes, apart from, staring at that hill, yes, there's pretty much no other purpose right now. I mean, there's not even input devices yet, so you just be... In fact, as soon as you booted it up, wouldn't it try and, ask for your, activation key and stuff, and you wouldn't be able to do anything? That is an interesting one. I guess they must have some way around that, because how did they get here? How did they get to the, the wallpaper if, you have to go through setup first? It won't let you actually get to the wallpaper, even, without activation. Yeah, I don't think you can get to the main screen throughout the installation. Like, there's no point in which you could do that. Oh yes. I guess you could. UTM probably does have a tool for that, where it would automatically just enter in the product key and go through all the configuration. Yeah, So it probably automated did that, and then there's nothing else it can really do. But it's cool just to see it work, I guess. No practical use case. But yeah. Also, I'm getting. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Unless you want to get a computer virus, then I wouldn't suggest doing it. Although, because it's in a virtual machine, I'm sure you'll be fine. I don't think there's any Windows XP viruses yet that can infect a Vision Pro headset, but yes. Hopefully it doesn't, yeah. I don't think malware developers have written anything for the Vision Pro yet, when it comes to Windows XP, trying to, VM bust, basically, and get out of the VM. Yeah. I don't think they've done that yet. Anyway, yeah, there is basically no point in this. But yeah, moving on to a kind of more interesting. Well, maybe you found this interesting, but moving on to a story to do with something, to do with Linux. The Indian Defense Ministry. Oops. Yeah. Sorry. What do you think? Oh, well done. Well done again for noticing these things. Yeah, I think last time, last podcast, I think I missed an article and then had to go back and cover it. So thankfully I don't have to do that again. But yeah, so this news story is about Cortana. So last week we discussed the fact that Cortana was going away, and that in Windows Insider builds, Cortana was already gone. So you couldn't use Cortana anymore. However, now they're actually trying to get rid of Cortana in Windows itself. However, you actually have to download an update to get rid of Cortana. So if you download the latest update thinking I'm going to get a great new features for Cortana, and you hit the update, and then, Cortana won't be there anymore. So if you want to keep Cortana for a little longer, don't update your computer. Don't update Cortana. Don't update the Cortana app. Yeah. So right now it appears that you can still use Cortana as long as you don't update the app in the Microsoft Store. So yeah. So when you think there's a new version available, it's like doesn't work anymore. Yes, I think sometimes app developers do that, where when you update the app, it just then says, "Oh, it doesn't work anymore." So yeah, so it's just don't. Yeah, why can't they just make a Windows update that just gets rid of Cortana, or maybe pull the plug on the servers? I don't know. I guess that would be too much of a shock for some people. Um, but yeah, um, with Windows Copilot, there's like 0 point in Cortana existing anymore. Because you can, with Windows Copilot, you'll be able to use that for your AI stuff. And I'm guessing Microsoft were looking to get rid of Cortana anyway. Not very successful or popular. So, now that they've got that opportunity, they're going to get rid of Cortana. Even if you think it's going to be some sort of amazing update. Anyway, that's probably going to be the people who actually really want to use Cortana the most are going to update Cortana, right? and it's going to be gone. Anyway. But yeah, so continue. Yes, in fact, if you never look at Cortana, you won't get rid of Cortana. Like, that's a funny thing. But yeah. But now we can actually move on to the Linux article, because I don't think there's really much else to talk about when it comes to Cortana going away. Aside from the fact they did it on a Friday. I mean, that's not really much of a Friday thing to do. Like, you could have done it on, like, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. Will this article actually load in my web browser? Does this load for you, Pigus? Yeah. What? If you're looking at my live stream, yeah, it doesn't seem to actually be loading. Let's see. Is it to do with my dark mode settings? Let's find out. What do you mean? I can't turn it. Oh. Well, it appears it's not loading in. Do you have Firefox? Are you doing this in Firefox, Pigus? What? Well, apparently it isn't loading for me for some reason. Maybe it's a VPN server I'm using. But then again, I'll kill the stream if I change my VPN server. So I don't really want to do that. You uploaded an image. Well, maybe we can use an image. In fact, yeah, let's do this. So, thankfully, have you uploaded it to the chat? Oh, yeah, thank you. So, in fact, I'll copy the link, because then I can paste it into the browser. Yeah, so thank you, Pigus, for that. So, the story actually is that the India's Defense Ministry has chosen to move to their own Linux distro instead of using Windows. So I've never heard of this Linux distro before. It's called Maya, and apparently it's based on Ubuntu, and is actually developed by who actually develops this? Is it developed by the Defense Ministry, or is it developed by an Indian company or developers or something? Do you have any clue? Oh, yeah, yeah, it would make sense for. Yeah, it makes sense for security, not just to download a random Linux distro that nobody's used. So. So yeah, so it's probably based on Ubuntu, and I'm guessing the Defense Ministry made it for, yeah, I'm guessing they made it to be, something that they could run on their systems and deploy en masse. So that's cool, and it's nice to see, a government agency using Linux for its kind of I guess they're using it for having less malware, aren't they? And less exploits. Yeah, so I guess if everybody did this, it actually probably wouldn't be a good thing for Linux, because they'd get loads of malware. But anyway, yeah, they've got a thing called Kylin. I'm looking this up on stream, actually. Kylin OS, I think. Kylin, that's what it's called, isn't it? But yeah, it's an operating system that they developed based on Linux. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember there's a thing called Open Kylin, and you can use that. And in fact, there's an Ubuntu distro called Ubuntu Kylin, which you can use. And yeah, that's based on the Chinese government-made distro. Anyway, I guess we should. Yeah, because Windows, of course, there's exploits with Windows, which only Microsoft can really patch, and maybe they don't want to rely on Microsoft for their cyber security protection, and yeah, they can't really patch it themselves either. So yes. Hopefully, they're not using Mozilla VPN on all of their computers. That would be a very strange decision on their part, but but yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, so they could use it, I guess. But then again, it's more likely they would use OpenVPN or WireGuard or something for their VPN purposes, not random VPN they found. But yeah, moving on to the next story. Asahi Linux has actually partnered with Fedora for a new flagship distro. So it's going to be called Fedora. Is it Asahi? Yeah, Fedora Asahi Remix. So yeah, so it's it's basically, so of course Odysee Linux is basically porting the Linux kernel to the ARM N1 architecture. So that basically means that the Apple Silicon Macs can actually run Linux. So it makes logical sense that they would implement this in a new Linux distro, and it appears they're using Fedora for this new distro. And yeah, so it's cool to see Fedora actually partnering up with another project to try and make a new distro. I don't really know where Fedora, like, with the recent Red Hat stuff, what is Fedora doing now? Like, when it comes to, things being closed source, as in, not closed source, what's the term for what Red Hat has done? Kind of source available if you pay, when it comes to Red Hat OS. But yes, anyway, that's a bit off topic. But it's cool to see a new distro for these Apple Silicon Macs. So Apple Silicon Macs are, quite popular. It seems like quite a lot of people are buying them because they've got decent specs, and the Apple Silicon, it has decent performance, so that's cool. And yeah, more Linux distros do need to come to Apple Silicon, because right now it's quite limited. You're quite limited for options when it comes to the Apple Silicon Macs. So it's nice to see another option coming up here. But yeah, so I'll move on to the next story. I don't think I should put this in the Linux distro releases, really. Also, I don't think I should really go on distro watch, but why not? Yeah, so I remember when it used to be called EOS. I think it still is kind of called EOS, but it's called is it Maruna? I've never Marina. We'll go with that. I've not ever tried to say this out loud before. Marina 1.13. So this is a new version of basically what used to be called EOS. So of course this is based on Lineage OS. So this is Lineage OS 19.1. It's based on. And there's some improvements. They seem pretty small to me. Just a few kind of bug fixes and a few small quality of life improvements. And yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any big Android updates here. But it is cool to see them come out with another release. I've already updated to this version. So yeah. But yeah, I think it was last year, I think it was last year, yeah. Yeah, they just randomly changed the name. Yeah, and they changed the name, and now when you try and log on, it has that name and stuff, and I think they're trying to more broadly say they're like more of a kind of cloud platform, But yeah, so it's kind of, I personally don't really think the name's particularly great. If they just stuck with the EOS brand, I'm sure that would have worked. But they've decided to go a bit of a different direction with branding. And surely confuse some of their fans, I'm guessing. But yeah. But yeah, so do you think this is just a small update, do you think? I don't think this really has anything massive in here. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the crypto section. So today we have two stories in this section, and the first one I've got to say is Actually, both of them are quite significant. But this one's quite interesting. So, PayPal. Let me reject cookies here. PayPal are launching a PYUSD stablecoin for payments and transfers. So this is another USD based stablecoin. So it's meant to be pegged to the US dollar. And PayPal for quite a while have been, they've had crypto trading with PayPal. But now they're actually introducing a stable coin, as many people rumored they might do at some stage. And so it's kind of cool to see them roll this out, just because it's another stablecoin option, and I think people trust PayPal a lot more than they trust, for example, Tether. So maybe this might be more popular. But I actually hadn't really heard much about this story before, I think, yesterday. So yeah, so there's already a lot of stablecoins out there, and I think this will just be another one of those. In the current regulatory environment in the US, it's interesting to see somebody try and launch a stablecoin, especially with the recent kind of action by the SEC against some crypto firms such as Coinbase and Binance. But yeah. Do you have any thoughts, Piggers? Yeah, it mm-hmm. Yeah, it I think it brings some legitimacy to the kind of crypto space if people like PayPal, if companies like PayPal are actually kind of engaging with the space and actually have a kind of crypto, stable coin out there. And it's more because it's a publicly listed US company, which is very big. It kind of gives a bit of legitimacy. People have heard of PayPal before, and they trust them compared to some crypto firms which people have never heard of before. And ordinary people probably aren't going to trust random cryptocurrency firms, but they might trust PayPal. So I guess that helps cryptocurrency in a way. Um, but yeah, so unless there's any other kind of, unless anybody has any other thoughts, I think that's it. So I'm just sending a quick message. There we are. So let's continue on. Sorry about that. So now let's move on to the phones section. So here's a story coming from somewhere that I don't think I've talked about on my channel. I don't think I've talked about really, on stream or on my channel or anything before. Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia are mandating all electronic devices, basically mandating that all electronic devices use USB-C charging ports by 2025. So this will apply to, basically this will apply to laptops and portable computers when stage 2 comes in 2026. So for now, it will be like phones and other electronic devices, but they'll give some extra time for laptops and portable computers. But of course, this will save a lot of money when it comes to people not having to buy extra chargers, and the fact that they can now just use a USB-C cable. And from an e-waste point of view, obviously, and an environmental point of view, uh, using a USB-C, basically mandating USB-C is also pretty good. But yeah, do you have any thoughts, Piggers, when it comes to USB-C being mandated in Saudi Arabia? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Do you remember what the EU excluded from the mandate? Did they exclude any items? Any like categories of devices? Okay. But yeah, so the first stage will apparently be for mobile phones and electronic devices such as headphones, keyboards, speakers, and routers. So yeah, so yes. So I guess you have to plug in your router by USB-C port now. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I guess that's a bit more extensive, I think, maybe, than the EU legislation. I don't remember the EU legislation including routers. I mean, if you're talking about electronic devices, couldn't you argue that, like, anything that has a port is an electronic device? Like, couldn't you argue that your toaster needs a USB-C port? Anyway, let's. Yeah, I don't really get this, but yeah, um, yeah, mhm, yeah. Who know? Yeah, I guess I'll have to ask for like regulatory approval for the next port or something. They'll have to find a way around it. I guess if they create some sort of, really much better standard, it will be approved probably. So in some ways, yeah, yeah. Who knows what's after USB-C? I mean, the port is already pretty small, to be honest. Who knows what kind of, yeah. Anyway, so we're going from a nice story here, talking about, Saudi Arabia implementing this kind of positive policy change, pro consumer, good for the environment, and, improving user experience and saving people money. But now we're going to be talking about Asus no longer allowing you to actually unlock the bootloader of your Zen phone. Asus is apparently moving away from allowing people to easily unlock their device's bootloader. According to several people who contacted technical support, unlocking the bootloader is disabled on the Zenfone 9 and will not work on the Zenfone 10 at all. So, of course, allowing people to unlock their bootloader is good for being able to actually modify the software and actually allowing consumers to have choice over what they have on their phone and allowing for developers to try different things with phones and allow people to have basically fun with their phone as well as being able to of course, use more privacy respecting operating systems, and just being able to basically do what you want with your phone. And yeah. But yeah, so Zen phones were actually, I think, relatively popular when it comes to custom ROMs. So you'll no longer be able to actually unlock your bootloader when it comes to the Zen phone. So that's just generally sad news. But yeah, have you ever unlocked the bootloader of your phone, Biggest? Mm-hmm. Uh, mm-hmm. What phone do you have right now? Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a OnePlus Nord right now. I unlock the bootloader. It's very easy with OnePlus phones to unlock the bootloader. Uh, yeah, you just need to use ADB commands pretty much. But before we lose any of our audience, because we're talking about that, yes, why don't we talk about Nokia announcing some new feature phones? Uh, so a bit of a kind of, oh, I'm trying to paste the link in here. So Nokia have announced the 150 2023 edition and the 130 Music. So the 150 2023 edition apparently has an IP52 water and dust resistance rating. So that's cool. So you actually have a bit more flexibility with what you do with your phone. And of course, it still looks pretty nice, but it's quite durable, so that's good. And overall, it's a feature phone, you know. There's been many in the past. It seems to not be running. I don't know. This feature phone doesn't look like it's running KaiOS. So it might. Oh, it says right here. It's running the S30 Plus OS. So that's quite a limited OS when it comes to features available. So you might be able to play a few games. Maybe you might be able to play Snake. But but apart from that, might be quite limited on what you can do with the internet. But yeah, but you can use a micro SD card and all that. And yeah, it's nice for the consumers that don't really need that many advanced features. They just want a simple phone. Maybe they like the physical T9 texting. Maybe they're into that. And they just want a cheap, simple phone. Maybe you're buying it for, a child, just their first phone, or maybe it's because you just want a dumb phone. But yeah. But yeah, the second phone here is a lot more interesting than the first, I feel. The Nokia 130 Music is meant to be more of a kind of music phone that allows you to play MP3s from your micro SD card. So that the micro SD card can be up to 32 gigabytes, so you'll be able to store plenty of music on that. And as you can see, there is quite a big loudspeaker, so you'll be able to definitely hear your music. So yeah. So it does seem to be that Nokia are releasing more of these kind of dumb phones, just refreshing old models and bringing some back. So that's cool if you want that. And it appears right now this is mainly being launched in, while this article is actually focusing on India. As you can see here, there's rupees. But I think you can get this model internationally. But in the UK, I can't seem to be able to find it right now. But we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, have you seen this device, Biggers? Yes, these is it available in Sweden? Yes, in fact, I might check it out right here. I'll find out on stream where this is. Let's find out. Is it available in... I think I've got my VPN set to Ireland, I think. So, maybe it'll... let's see. International, no. Let's see. Why don't we hit... I checked Ireland and I checked the UK earlier. Why don't we check... Where's Sweden? It should be... maybe I'm just... Oh, there we are. There it is. Found Sweden. I found Finland. I found Norway, but I couldn't find Sweden. Here it is. Let me see. I'm just navigating blind here. I do not... special release? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's apparently... It's a 2023 version. Yeah. Maybe this is only being launched in India. I'm not totally sure. Maybe it's for currently for developing markets, but it appears to have been released in some markets. So if you're living in India, maybe you can get this phone. But for people in the UK, in Sweden, and in Ireland, it doesn't appear right now you can get this phone. So Western consumers might not be able to get their hands on it. But it does look... It looks like a quite a decent feature phone if you just want a cheap, a cheap phone that you can use. I think it's got 4G, so you won't get disconnected from the mobile networks. Because I know that in the UK, EE are actually, and I think all the mobile networks are shutting off the 3G soon. So thankfully, it's using 4G, I think. So you'll be covered on that front. So I guess if you want a newer feature phone that will still be able to work in the future, then this is a good option. The bottom notes. Where are the bottom notes? Oh. 2G only dual SIM phone. Well, retract everything I just said. They're running 2G. I thought Nokia weren't releasing 2G handsets anymore. Well, you know what? I will retract everything that I said. This phone looks not good at all. Oh, and apparently I'm not even allowed to... Apparently I'm being blocked from accessing Nokia's website now, so, that's great. Maybe too many people on this VPN server have been trying to get on Nokia's website. Access denied. But yes. But yeah, so retract everything that I said. It appears... Well, apart from it's only in, developing markets, yeah, so maybe if you're living in the UK, don't try and get this phone from another country because it might not actually work soon. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. In Sweden, have they shut off the 2G? So if you have this phone, don't come to Sweden because it will probably not work soon. But yeah, I think a lot of old phones will just stop working at that point. I mean, it's kind of sad, to be honest. But yeah. But yeah, so this is one that personally affects me, as I don't have watch history enabled on YouTube. So now YouTube will show you a blank home screen, a homepage, if you don't have watch history on. So this is kind of an interesting story. So they're rolling this feature out over the next couple of over the next few months. But a few users across the internet have already noticed this change. So in the place of the recommended videos, the normal recommended videos, it says that your watch history is off, and that you should update the setting. So I think this is an obvious ploy by Google to try and get people to enable watch history, even if they didn't want it enabled. They just hit update setting just because they, are really fed up with not having any, videos recommended to them. I think they perfectly well can recommend videos. It's just they've chosen not to, just to get people, get people's data, basically. So yeah, I don't think this is particularly good. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it would just be like, I guess they just recommend you whatever videos are, popular in your location. I guess, it wouldn't say your watch history is off. So really, the solution is just log out of Google. Yeah, log out of Google on YouTube and it will work. I don't. Yes, that's the other option. But yeah, so this is actually kind of a sad article. I've read lots of old CNET articles before, but apparently they're getting rid of them. They're deleting a lot of old articles to try and improve their Google search ranking. Uh, so yeah, so apparently, um, since July, they've removed thousands of articles from the CNET website. So CNET says that so-called article pruning sends a signal to Google that CNET is fresh, relevant, and worthy of being placed higher than their competitors. So so apparently, they're basically just removing articles just to get better search rankings, so to appear higher than, for example, The Verge. So they're doing this to try and basically beat the competition by looking more fresh, by just deleting all the old articles and pretending that, those stories that never happened and that actually they're a really fresh new website that really needs to be boosted on the search ranking. So yeah, I think this isn't. Yeah, I don't think this is a good thing. I think it shows the importance of stuff like archive.org and yeah, and the Internet Wayback Machine and archiving websites, because, of course, things happen, websites can go down, they can disappear, so it's always good to have a record of the past websites, and, yeah. So yeah, so this would be sad for some people, and hopefully some of these articles have been saved by internet archivists. I imagine people saved some CNET articles, but yeah. But yeah, it's sad to see a lot of the articles, even dating back to the 1990s, disappearing from their website. So yeah, yeah, it's not a, yeah, it's not particularly good. Oh, interesting. Yeah, it is very odd. Why don't they just send them to a new website called like Old CNET? uh, yeah, yeah, they could just use their robots.txt file to just, exclude. Or maybe they're just finding a reason to get rid of them. Anyway. I don't see why, though, because, like, I mean, they can, maybe to make everybody forget that download.com ever happened. And, anyway, no. It's probably because, it's probably because they're owned now by a private equity, backed marketing firm, potentially. That they're now just removing the stories because they probably don't actually care. I mean, they are archiving them using archive.org, so that's a good thing. And yeah, so, and of course they're apparently alerting the authors of the stories 10 days in advance to warn them that they will have to say goodbye to their articles or maybe try and save them or something. But yeah, kind of sad. Yeah, I mean, they could. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could. In fact, with archive.org, if they save the stories on archive.org, could you just go on archive.org and look up CNET, probably? Let's find out. Why don't we find out on stream, actually? Actually, maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know. Why don't we go to archive.org on this? Why don't we look up CNET? Is that how you look up CNET? Yeah. Let's see, is there any articles, text? Oh, look, lots of random stuff in here. Anyway, that's, that's not any of the articles. Anyway, I'll try and look for CNET articles later on. But yeah. But for now, why don't we just end this stream? Sorry, one article that I missed. There's one article. So going back to the cryptocurrency news, so Coinbase, they have launched a base protocol. So it's a first, not protocol, base blockchain. So it's the first base blockchain launched by a public company. So this is meant to be a. It's actually technically a level 2, based on the on top of the Ethereum blockchain, using an OP stack software from another popular layer 2 network, Optimism. So, of course, because Coinbase are quite a big publicly listed firm, which has a lot of people who have their crypto deposited there. They have quite a lot of brand recognition. So, them launching this layer 2 on top of Ethereum will be quite popular, I think. And yeah, it means that Coinbase can do more when it comes to, Ethereum to Ethereum. And yeah, of course, it kind of makes sense them launching their own chain. I mean, a lot of other exchanges have launched their own chains, so Coinbase are quite late to the game. But yeah. Yeah, have you heard much about the story, Pigus? I haven't personally. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently they are. So that's cool. Um, what's going on with the SEC and Coinbase right now? Do you have any clue about that? Well, I guess we'll find out on stream. Uh, oh, very interesting. what Coinbase tells SEC it no longer thinks crypto is the future of finance. Well, really? I struggle to believe they said that. Coinbase filed a motion to dismiss the charges on August the 4th. In that motion, the company backpedaled on one of the on most of its visionary claims about crypto powering any new financial system. So maybe their lawyers told them they have to do this. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, it's probably not a good idea to comment on a current court case. So maybe we'll move on. Had you heard about this, Biggest? About Coinbase saying that it's no longer crypto is no longer the future of finance. Yeah. No, it doesn't. It's very odd. I'm gonna check another source on that one. Because yeah, Coinbase have always been, kind of a big proponent of crypto, so it's very, it'd be very weird for them to backpedal on, basically, the industry that they basically based everything on. Let's But yeah, anyway. But yeah, I guess we covered all the articles now, unless anybody says otherwise. But yeah, so thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's stream. Hopefully you didn't find it too bad. So yeah, so thanks for watching, and goodbye.